We've come up with 6 steps for success with enterprise social. We do have an infographic for this that will be sent out to you after that can show you the roadmap and what to do and keep in mind, but we wanted to go over these today as well. So the very first one is to actually define your vision. Um, this is incredibly important. You need to know how Yammer will help your organization or any enterprise social platform that you choose. Um, you need to know what social platforms can, or how they can help your team work smarter, not harder. Brainstorm across the business to determine how to best utilize enterprise social applications for your staff. You need to come up with a plan, and you need to come up with your vision before you even try to implement it. If you try to implement something without a plan, you won't find success, unfortunately. That being said, if you do implement without a plan, you can always go back and create one after.
Right.
If that's what you're experiencing now.
So the next step is to plan, basically, to develop business-focused use cases that help achieve higher engagement and collaboration. You need to prioritize your goals. You need to review the implementation plan. You need to get it into action.
So that the business-focused use case, and this is where organic versus kind of forced adoption happens.
Right.
Your initial implementation will be a little bit more forced, and you'll come up with use cases. Perhaps it's increasing onboarding with your employees. You want to give them a smaller ramp-up window. You're trying to come up with a way of getting them immersed into the culture and ready to do their jobs faster. If you create an internal group for them, they can go in there, ask questions, find out who has expertise. They can ramp up faster. You're forcing them to use the platform. Whereas as that happens, and you'll see in the next steps, it'll start to happen a little bit more organically.
Right. So, I mean, for example, if you wanted to implement, one of the first things you wanted to do is implement onboarding procedures across Yammer. So then you could have all of your benefits documentation, any sort of onboarding videos, training videos, any sort of paperwork that needs to be filled out can all be housed within Yammer. So that way the first thing that a new employee does is they go into Yammer, they become engaged immediately because they have to start interacting with it and interacting with people in HR or in their own line of business management or their own colleagues. So that's, at the very least, that's one sort of immediate forced implementation use case.
Right, and as Eric just mentioned, implement is the third step. So you take those business use cases and you bring them to life. You bring the network to life. You invite and welcome new users. You encourage them to add photos, expertise, and start posting. If you've used Yammer or any platform for social enterprise, you'll typically see that there's an image option. You want to interact with people. You don't want to interact with unknown avatars because that just removes that social component, that personal component. And as mentioned, you want to drive forward those use cases that you came up with in the planning stage.
The next step is to engage. So this is where you really start seeing employees use your social enterprise through various groups, either social or line of business groups, through team groups, through project groups, through one-to-many conversations that you can have. Rather than going across email, you can actually have an entire conversation that's all in one thread, and you don't have anything getting branched off where someone replies to one person but doesn't reply all. That way, every person involved in that conversation stays actively engaged in it. You can do the same thing when working on projects. You can have various things that tie into your social enterprise platform, SharePoint, anything, projects where you can do multiple person collaboration simultaneously, where everyone is engaged and everyone is utilizing the technology that's there. They're being very social. They can throw out an idea and either implement it immediately or discuss why it won't work. There's there's plenty of ways to get people engaged, and this is goes back to what AJ was talking about in terms of organic growth. At this point, you're no longer doing a forced adoption where you're requiring people to interact with it. At this point, people are automatically going into their social enterprise and working across teams and collaborating with each other.
And this is also where you would implement Yammer into your line of business applications. So you would pull the open API and embed it into Salesforce, or open it up in CRM. You have those options.
SharePoint, OneDrive for Business.
Those. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or any third-party application as well.
Right.
Yammer's API is open, so you can do that. And I believe some of the other platforms work in a similar fashion as well.